In the shadows of ancient ruins, beneath the layers of dust and silence, something whispers. It is not the wind, it is memory. The memory of stone, the memory of hands that shaped the very foundations of empires. In a world where modern concrete cracks within decades, the Roman monuments stand unyielding after millennia. Why? This is not merely a story of bricks and mortar. It is a mystery passed down through ages, a sacred formula whispered among craftsmen and guarded by time. Today, we begin a journey not through history books, but through echoes, through crumbling arches and submerged harbors, through secrets carved into forgotten quarries, and through this ancient voice, we might just unlock a technology that defies time itself. The wind drifts softly through the broken arches of an ancient aqueduct, carrying with it the faint scent of stone warmed by 2,000 summers. Shadows creep across walls that have stood longer than empires, their surfaces pitted yet stubbornly intact. In the dying light, the ruins do not seem like corpses of a civilization, but living relics, breathing, watching, remembering. Modern engineers walk among these stones with tape measures and scanning devices, whispering to each other in disbelief. They run their hands over walls that should have long since crumbled to dust. In our world, concrete is a frail champion. Roads crack in a decade, bridges demand constant repair, and structures meant to last a century often fail before their time. Yet here, in the silence of history, Roman concrete stands as if it were forged not by men, but by the gods themselves. It is a paradox that gnaws at the curious mind. How could a people who knew nothing of steel reinforcement, who mixed their mortar under the open sky with bare hands, create a material that laughs in the face of centuries? Was it chance, or was it something else? The Romans called it opus cementitium, a name that rolls off the tongue like a prayer. Its very syllables feel weighty, almost ceremonial, as though the word itself might unlock the secret. Inscriptions carved deep into stone speak of triumphs, conquests, and emperors, but they remain silent on the exact alchemy of this miraculous substance. Some say it was the volcanic ash plucked from the earth near Vesuvius that gave it strength beyond mortal means. Others claim there were rituals, blessings murmured over the lime, offerings to Vulcan, the god of fire, before it was baked into quicklime. There are whispers, too, of hidden guilds, knowledge passed not in scrolls, but in oaths sworn in shadow. And so the mystery endures. Each crack in the modern world's concrete is a reminder that we, for all our machines and laboratories, have yet to surpass the mastery of those who lived and died under the Roman sun. As you stand before a weathered pier that still grips the sea with unyielding arms, you cannot help but wonder, what if the key to the future lies buried in the ruins of the past? Walk the streets of ancient Rome, not as they were, but as they are now. The Colosseum towers like a skeleton of glory. The Pantheon dome still cups the sky. Bridges built in Caesar's time still arch across rivers, their stones damp from 1,000 rains, yet unbroken. How? How have these structures endured not centuries, but millennia? It is not just craftsmanship, it is material. Roman concrete, hidden beneath the marble and brick facades, is the silent guardian. In the core of their construction lies a substance that does not weaken with age, but hardens. It evolves. Where modern concrete deteriorates with time and water, Roman concrete thrives, especially in marine environments where most materials rot or rust. Their harbor walls and piers remained standing, their cores growing stronger under the sea's assault. Portus Cassanus, Baiae, Ostia. These names may be forgotten by modern maps, but their marine concrete survives in salt water to this day. Scientists scratch their heads, builders scratch their chins, and Rome, as always, remains silent. The ancients knew what they were doing, not just technically, but spiritually. Their monuments were not merely structures, they were symbols, anchored not just to soil, but to time itself. They believed in eternity, and they built for it. Before the empire, there was a discovery. Long before emperors ruled and legions marched, Roman engineers found something strange. When they mixed volcanic ash with slaked lime and rubble, the mass began to harden on its own, stronger than anything they'd used before. They experimented, slowly, cautiously. Not all mixtures worked. Some crumbled, others held. Over time, patterns emerged. The volcanic ash from certain regions, especially near Puteoli, reacted better. They called this precious material pozzolana, and so opus cementitium was born, not in glory, but in quiet, dusty trial and error. Each structure was a test, each wall a question. Would it endure? This was not industrial. It was ritual. Mortar was hand-mixed with reverence. Stone was chosen not just for strength, but for spirit. Earth, water, fire, air, they believed all four elements were fused in their creation. Roman engineers were more than builders. They were alchemists, priests of stone, and what they created would one day outlive their entire civilization. Beneath the sleeping giant of Mount Vesuvius lies more than just the memory of fire and ash. It holds the secret to Roman concrete's immortality. Pozzolana, a fine volcanic ash so potent that it transformed the future of construction. The Romans discovered that, when mixed with lime and water, pozzolana did not just bind, it created new stone, stronger, tougher, and more resistant to weather than anything they'd known. It wasn't ash from just anywhere. It had to be from volcanic regions like the Bay of Naples, where the earth's fury had once scorched the land and left behind this rare reactive dust. This wasn't chance. It was chemistry disguised as magic. The moment the mixture met water, something alchemical happened. The lime dissolved, the pozzolana reacted, crystals began to form, tiny interlocking structures that grew stronger with time. In fact, it is this very reaction that explains why Roman concrete often grows harder with each passing century. The Romans didn't just understand pozzolana, they revered it. Barges ferried it across the empire. Vaults stored it like gold. And for structures that needed to last forever, harbors, temples, aqueducts, they used it without question. To the Romans, pozzolana was a gift from the gods, birthed from fire, cooled by time, and reawakened by human hands. There is something almost alive in Roman concrete. It sleeps, it endures, and when it breaks, it heals. In modern materials, cracks are the beginning of the end. But in Roman structures, tiny fractures often trigger a reaction. As water seeps into a crack, it activates leftover minerals in the concrete. These minerals rehydrate and begin to grow, filling the void, sealing the breach. Self-healing, not in the science fiction sense, but in the ancient organic sense. The same crystals that once formed during curing now reform to protect the structure again, like a wound that closes. This wasn't fully understood until the 21st century, When researchers examined Roman piers submerged for 2,000 years, they found fresh mineral growth in the cracks. The concrete had repaired itself, over and over. What seemed like superstition, Rome's eternal stone, was backed by science. Their concrete wasn't passive. It was active. It responded. It aged like living bone. Whether by design or divine luck, the Romans had created a material that did not fear time, but embraced it. To the modern mind, the Roman builder was an engineer. To the ancient eye, he was a priest. Each mixture was not a batch, it was a rite. Water was drawn with care. Lime was slaked in sacred fire. Pozzolana was sifted by hand under the eyes of masters. Every step a ritual. Every component treated with respect. They believed that what they built would touch the gods, and so they built with ceremony. In the mixing pits, chants were sometimes heard. At sunrise, foremen would face the east before pouring foundation. Even the placement of the stone followed patterns inspired by sacred geometry. The materials were of the earth, the process of the spirit. Builders wore symbols of Vulcan, god of fire and craft. Some crews fasted before raising the arches of a temple. Others offered incense before sealing a harbor wall. To build was to invoke divine order, to shape chaos into permanence. The line between builder and alchemist blurred, and their creations, like spells, still echo through the ages. Perhaps the greatest marvel of Roman concrete is not found on land, but beneath the sea. In places where tides crash and salt corrodes, Roman harbor walls have stood for 2,000 years. Modern concrete disintegrates in such conditions, but Rome's blend strengthens. The key lies in the chemical marriage of pozzolana, lime, and seawater. When seawater seeped into the concrete, it did not erode, it activated it. Over decades, rare minerals like aluminous tobermorite formed. These crystals reinforced the concrete from within. It was as though the sea itself was part of the recipe. Portus Causanus, Caesarea Maritima. The piers remain like stone leviathans sleeping in the surf. Not even time can erode them. This was no accident. Roman engineers designed their marine concrete for transformation, for evolution. They welcomed the water. They invited it in. The sea, the enemy of stone, became its ally. Walk beneath the Pantheon's dome and ask yourself, how did they do this without steel? Stand beside the Colosseum's foundations and marvel. How did they support such mass on shifting soil? The answer lies in Roman concrete, but also in Roman genius. They mastered weight distribution. They layered lighter pumice aggregates higher up. They shaped forms in ways that resisted collapse. And they trusted their concrete not just to bear weight, but to grow stronger under it. The Pont du Gard aqueduct, spanning rivers with perfect arches. The Basilica of Maxentius with coffered vaults that defy gravity. These weren't just buildings. They were declarations of mastery. Modern engineers still study their methods. Not out of nostalgia, but necessity. Because in many ways we are still trying to catch up. What if the secret was never written? Legends say that Roman guilds protected their formulas with blood oaths, that each master passed the knowledge only to one apprentice, that scrolls containing the ratios were burned when cities fell, on purpose. Some believe temples hid encoded instructions in carvings. Others whisper that a fragment of the original recipe lies beneath the Pantheon, locked away. There are tales of a builder who vanished after completing the largest harbor wall, his name erased, his work never replicated. Some called him a magician, others a thief of divine knowledge. Whether true or embellished, these myths speak to something real, the awe this material inspired. To outsiders, it was magic. To insiders, it was sacred code. So how did we lose it? As the empire fractured, so did its knowledge networks. Trade routes broke. Quarries were abandoned. The sacred sites of Pozzolana were forgotten. Later builders imitated the surface, but not the soul. They used sand instead of volcanic ash. Rushed the curing, lost the rituals. The language of concrete became coarse. The art turned industrial. And the spell broke. By the medieval age, the secret of Roman concrete had all but vanished. And with it, a chapter of human brilliance went silent. It wasn't just the formula that disappeared, it was the world view, the harmony of craft and spirit, of engineering and awe. In labs and universities today, scientists peer into Roman concrete with electron microscopes. They isolate its minerals, recreate its recipes, simulate its aging, and slowly something ancient awakens. Modern Roman concrete experiments now boast improved strength, resistance, and carbon reduction. Some companies are even using pozzolana again, sourced from volcanic regions. But something remains elusive. The soul, the ritual, the intuition. You can measure a crystal, but can you replicate a chant? You can weigh an aggregate, but can you rebuild belief? Perhaps the next generation of builders will not just revive the formula, but restore the reverence. What Rome built, the earth remembers, not just in ruins, but in principles, in lessons, in echoes. We learn that strength can come from collaboration, of materials, of minds, of centuries. We saw that the union of science and spirit creates not just structures, but legacies. Today's skyscrapers reach higher, but do they last longer? Today's formulas cure faster, but will they endure? Roman concrete stands as a challenge, a reminder, a whisper, that sometimes the past does not crumble, it calls. And if we listen closely, the stone might just speak again.